Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're ready to exercise your brain today.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are not just looking at a new scientific paper. We are effectively staging an intervention for modern physics.
That is a very dramatic way to put it.
You think?
But honestly, it's not entirely inaccurate. I mean, if you just look at the landscape of physics right now, we're kind of stuck. We're in a stalemate.
It feels like a bad marriage, doesn't it? Seriously. On one side of the house, you've got general relativity.
Right.
Einstein's beautiful sweeping curves, gravity, stars, black holes. It's elegant. It's smooth.
And on the other side of the house, you've got quantum mechanics. The jittery, pixelated, probabilistic world of atoms and, subatomic particles. It's messy, it's discrete, and it plays by completely different rules.
And the biggest problem is they refuse to talk to each other.
They won't even look at each other.
You try to combine the math of the very big with the math of the very small, and what happens?
The math explodes, literally.
Right.
You get infinities, you get singularities, the equations they break down, they stop predicting reality.
And we've been stuck here for what, decades?
Decades, just looking for a way to bridge these two worlds.
Well, today we might just have that bridge. Or maybe it's more like a tunnel. We're looking at a stack of documents proposing a candidate for a theory of everything.
Okay.
It's a mouthful, so get ready. Supersymmetric geometric quantum mechanics, or SGQM for short.
SGQM.
And specifically, we're digging into the Aetheron model.
And I think it's important to be clear right up front for everyone listening. This isn't just, tweaking the standard model.
Right.
This isn't adding a decimal point to some variable. This is a tear down and rebuild renovation. It challenges the most fundamental assumption we have.
Which is?
The nature of empty space itself.
The vacuum.
The vacuum. We're taught from high school onwards that space is, well, it's a stage. It's passive. It's a container.
Yeah, you put stuff in it.
You put actors on it, planets, stars, particles, and they move around. But the stage itself, it's just there. It's the background.
It's the background.
Maybe it warps a little if you drop a heavy bowling ball on it, like Einstein said. It curves. But for the most part, it's just nothingness.
That's the classical view. But the material we're covering today says that view is dead wrong.
Okay.
It argues that space is not a passive container. It is a machine.
A machine.
A 12-dimensional rotating geometric engine. And what we call matter, you, me, the microphone in front of me, we aren't things in the machine.
We're part of it.
We are the motions of the machine.
Okay, so that's the headline. Space is alive. But we're not here for, vague philosophical ideas.
No, we have the schematics.
We have a stack of technical papers, and our mission today is to take this machine apart. We're going to open the hood and stare directly at the engine.
The engine room of reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to figure out why the universe supposedly needs exactly 12 dimensions where the number 66 comes from.
And no, it's not Order 66 for the Star Wars fans. Hey, right. And we need to know why electron shells have the capacity they do, and why the number 8 pi is the literal heartbeat of reality.
It's a journey into the geometry of the why.
The why.
Why are things the way they are? Why aren't they different?
So let's start with the chassis of this machine, the Aetheron. Now, I have to play the skeptic immediately.
Please do.
When I hear aether, my mind goes straight to the 19th century. Men with monocles talking about the luminiferous ether. This invisible fluid they thought light needed to swim through.
Right, the medium.
But then Michelson and Morley came along in 1887, did their big experiment, and proved there was no ether wind.
And the theory died.
So is this a zombie theory? Is this a comeback tour for the ether?
It's a fair question, and I think the terminology is definitely a reclaiming of the word. It's not a continuation of the old idea.
Okay, how so?
The 19th century ether was thought of as a fluid, a static ocean. The idea was that the Earth moved through it like a ship through water.
So you should feel a breeze.
Exactly. So naturally, you should be able to measure the current, the wind rushing past the ship.
And when they couldn't measure the wind, they threw out the whole ocean.
Precisely. But the SGQM Aetheron is fundamentally different. It is not a fluid.
Okay.
It is a ranked 2 tensor field.
Okay. Rank 2 tensor field. That sounds terrifyingly technical.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that before we go any further.
Think of a fluid as something that flows. Think of a tensor field as a structure that holds tension.
Like a spider web.
A spider web is a great visual. Or a crystal lattice, something that has structure and can be stressed. And crucially, this lattice isn't sitting still.
It's moving.
It is defined by rotation. The central premise of this entire stack of research is that the vacuum is a 12-dimensional manifold called M12.
12 dimensions, okay. We are comfortable with 3 dimensions of space up, down, left, right, forward, back,
Yep.
and 1 dimension of time. That's 4. That's our playground. Where are the other 8 hiding?
That is the million-dollar question in physics, right? In other theories, like string theory, you often hear that the extra dimensions are compactified.
Right, they're curled up.
Exactly. Curled up into these tiny little balls so small that they basically don't exist for us. They're just mathematical conveniences that vanish when you zoom out.
But SGQM doesn't do that.
SGQM takes a much bolder stance. It says, no, they aren't curled up into nothingness. They are active.
Active how?
They are rotational axes. The source material calls them the F8 fiber.
The F8 fiber.
Imagine every single point in what you think of as empty space, the space between your eyes and the wall, is actually a complex intersection of 12 different axes, and they are all spinning.
So space isn't empty, it's just incredibly busy.
It's a storm.
It's like looking at a calm ocean from a plane. But if you could zoom in with a super microscope, you'd see a churning storm of 12 different currents at every single coordinate.
That's a fantastic analogy. That's exactly it.
But why 12? Why not 10? Why not 26, like some other theories? Is there a reason for that specific number, or is it just what makes the math work out?
It comes down to stability.
Okay.
Specifically, it comes down to avoiding those singularities we mentioned at the start. You know how in standard physics, if you crush matter down into a black hole, the math just, it breaks.
Yeah, you get a singularity. Infinite density. The laws of physics pack their bags and leave town.
Exactly. SGQM argues that the reason standard physics breaks is that it's trying to cram too much energy into too few dimensions.
It only has 4 to work with.
It only has 4. But if you have 12 dimensions, you have more degrees of freedom.
Degrees of freedom. That's like having more places to put the energy, more options.
Precisely. Think of it like a pressure valve. Or, even better, think of a balloon.
Okay.
If you squeeze a balloon here in our 3D world, the air bulges out to the side, right? The balloon distorts, but it holds.
Right.
And imagine you're in a 2D world, flatland. If you squeeze a circle in flatland, there is no side for the air to bulge into.
There's nowhere for it to go.
Nowhere. The pressure has nowhere to go. The circle just bursts instantly.
So our standard physics is like flatland trying to understand a balloon.
In the context of a black hole, yes. The 12-dimensional manifold provides the necessary geometric room to redistribute that rotational energy during an extreme collapse.
So when a black hole forms, the energy doesn't go to infinity.
No, it shifts gears. It moves into those 8 internal dimensions.
So the black hole doesn't break the universe just opens a pressure valve into the engine room.
Correct. It redistributes the stress. And this leads us to the foundational equation of this entire theory, the Aetheron theorem.
Ah, yes.
It's a conservation law.
I looked at this equation in the notes. It's alpha equals mass squared plus E rotational squared. And honestly, my first thought was just high school geometry.
It should be.
It looks suspiciously like the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
It is exactly that, but applied to reality itself. Let's just break down the variables for everyone. Mu, the Greek letter mu, represents mass. E-rot is rotational energy, and alpha is the Aetheron invariant.
So mass and energy are the 2 legs of the triangle.
Yes, and alpha is the hypotenuse, the constant.
Okay, hold on. This is a visual that really helped me when I was reading through this. I want you to picture this. Imagine a right triangle, a glowing one, rotating in the dark.
It's a beautiful analogy.
You're in a pitch black room. There's this glowing triangle spinning, but you can't see the whole thing. You can only see the shadows of its legs projected onto the wall behind it.
Right.
And depending on how that triangle turns, one leg's shadow gets longer and the other gets shorter.
And one leg is mass, the other is energy.
But the triangle itself, the hypotenuse, its length, never changes. It's constant.
That is the core insight, the Aetheron invariant. The theory states that mass and energy are not separate physical entities.
They're just 2 sides of the same coin.
They are orthogonal projections of a single unified rotational state. If you increase the mass of something, the energy must adjust to keep that hypotenuse constant.
That is so much more elegant than just saying mass turns into energy. It implies they are literally the same thing, just viewed from a different geometric angle.
Orthogonal projections is the key phrase here. They are 90 degrees apart in this 12-dimensional structure. And this geometric necessity is what keeps the universe stable. It's why you don't just explode or vanish. The geometry holds you together.
Okay, so we have this 12-dimensional stage. But stage needs actors, or at least it needs mechanics. This brings us to the engine room of the theory.
Yes.
The notes talk about 66 generators.
66 generators. This is where we leave the vague analogies and we hit the hard math of symmetry groups.
Generator. In my head, I'm picturing a diesel generator humming in a basement, but that's not what this is.
No, not at all. In group theory physics, a generator is essentially a plane of rotation. It's a specific way that the fabric of reality can twist or turn.
A way it can move. A degree of freedom.
A degree of freedom, correct. If you have a ball, you can rotate it around the x-axis, the y-axis, or the z-axis. Those are 3 generators of rotation.
Got it.
Now, the Aetheron is governed by a symmetry group called spin 12.
Because of the 12 dimensions. Makes sense.
Right. Now, there's a strict mathematical formula for calculating how many independent rotations you can have in any given number of dimensions. It's n times n minus 1, all divided by 2.
Let's do the math live. N is 12. So 12 times 11 is, what, 132?
132.
Divided by 2.
66.
66 distinct ways space can twist.
That is the magic number. That is the number of gears in the machine.
Now compare that to our standard 4D space-time. The physics we all know and love.
Oh, it's night and day. In 4D, you have 3 space dimensions and 1 time dimension. The number of generators is determined by what's called the Lorentz group.
And that gives us...
You have 3 rotations turning left, right, up, down, and so on, and 3 boosts, which is just moving faster in a direction.
So 3 plus 3. 6.
Just 6.
Just 6.
It's just 6.
So standard physics is trying to describe the complexity of the entire universe, using only 6 movements. But this model says there are actually 66 available.
Exactly. And that limitation is why standard models struggle with things like gravity at the quantum scale. They're missing 60 degrees of freedom.
They don't have enough moves.
They are trying to solve a Rubik's Cube that has 66 sides by only turning 6 of them. You can't do it.
It's like trying to play a symphony on a piano that only has 6 keys.
Yes.
You can play a simple tune, sure. You can get pretty far, but you can't play Beethoven.
That is a fantastic way to put it. The richness of the universe requires the full keyboard, the full 66 keys.
So where are these 66 generators hiding? How are they organized? Because the source material breaks them down into 3 very specific groups. This part felt like looking at the schematic of a car engine.
It really is a machine. The 66 generators are split into 3 functional sets.
Okay.
First, you have the SO4 group. That's 6 generators.
That's our world, right. That's the 6 we already know about.
Yes, that is the external frame. Those 6 generators govern the macroscopic space-time we experience. Length, width, height, time, rotations, and boosts.
Okay, so that's the dashboard. That's the part we can see and interact with.
Exactly. Then you have the SO8 group. This creates 28 generators.
28. And these are, where are they?
These are the internal harmonics. They govern that hidden 8-dimensional fiber we talked about.
The engine block.
This is the engine block under the hood. These 28 generators define the fundamental cycles of reality, the things that make an electron, or a quark. This is the deep structure.
So we have 6 for the outside, 28 for the inside, that's 34. We are missing 32.
And here is where it gets really, really interesting, as you like to say. The remaining 32 generators are the mixed generators.
The bridge.
The geometric bridge. Mathematically, it's so elegant. It's 4 external dimensions multiplied by 8 internal dimensions.
4 times 8 is 32.
30.
So these 32 generators are strictly there to connect the inside to the outside, the engine to the dashboard.
Yes, and their function is absolutely critical. The sources describe them as the non-propagation constraint.
Which sounds like they stop things from moving. That sounds counterintuitive.
Not exactly. They stop things from propagating in the classical sense.
What do you mean?
These 32 generators don't transmit forces like a radio tower transmitting a signal. They synchronize them. They couple the internal rotations of the Aetheron to the external world we see.
So when we see a force like gravity or magnetism, we are actually seeing these 32 gears turning to match the inside with the outside.
Precisely. They are the transmission. And the theory suggests that these mixed generators are responsible for the measurable deviations in physics.
The little quirks.
The little quirks that standard Einsteinian relativity gets almost right, but not quite. Like the precession of Mercury's orbit.
Right. Mercury is the rebel planet. It doesn't orbit exactly how Newton said it should. Einstein came along and fixed it with the curvature of space-time.
And SGQM says Einstein was right about the curvature, But the mechanism of that curvature involves these 32 bridging generators realigning the internal geometry of the planet with the sun's gravity.
It's a mechanical process.
It's a mechanical coupling, not just a curved path. It's the transmission gears grinding a little bit to keep the planet on its track.
It's amazing how specific the numbers are. It's not about 30, it's exactly 32.
And that number 32, it's not just for the generators. It shows up again in the very structure of matter itself.
Ah.
Which leads us to the spinors.
The 32 spinors. Okay, spinor is one of those words physicists throw around that scares people off. So let's define it. What is a spinor in the context of this 12-dimensional machine?
Think of a spinor as the fundamental building block of matter's identity. If the generators are the verbs, the twisting and the turning, the spinors are the nouns,
The things being twisted.
the objects being twisted. They are the fundamental states of matter.
And why are there 32 of them? Does that just happen to match the generators?
It comes directly from the mathematics of the spin 12 group. The fundamental representation of this group is naturally 32-dimensional.
Okay.
But to understand why that matters, to understand why it's so stable, we have to look at the octonionic connection.
Octonions. Okay, this is deep math territory. That's an 8-dimensional number system, right? We have real numbers, complex numbers, quaternions.
Yeah.
And then you get to octonions.
Yes. And the internal 8-dimensional space, the F8 fiber, is constructed using octonions. Now, octonions are notoriously difficult to work with
Why is that?
because they're non-associative, which means the order in which you multiply them changes the result. If you do A times B times C, the answer changes depending on whether you multiply A and B first or B and C first.
That sounds like a complete headache.
It is a headache for standard calculations. But for high-dimensional geometry, it's a lifesaver. Octonions provide the algebraic framework to host these 32 states without creating ghost states.
Ghost states, what are those?
They're mathematical artifacts, errors, basically. In other models that try to do this, you might get answers that imply particles with negative probability or other kinds of nonsense.
So the math gives you an answer like, there is a negative 50% chance of this particle existing.
Which is impossible. It means your model is broken. The octonionic structure prevents that from ever happening. It ensures that the 32 spinors are real, stable, physical possibilities. It forces the math to make sense.
And this isn't just abstract math. The source material makes a direct and I think really compelling link to something we all learned in high school chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
Electron shells.
This was one of the biggest aha moments for me in reading through all this.
Me too. I remember memorizing the numbers 2, 8, 18, 32. That's how many electrons can fit in the shells of an atom.
Yep, 2n squared.
I always just thought, well, that's just how it is. I accepted it as a random rule of nature.
But SGQM says, no, that's how the geometry is. Look at the numbers. The fourth shell holds 32 electrons.
32?
Why? Because the geometry of the Aetheron has 32 distinct rotational modes available at that energy level.
So the electron isn't just sitting in some fuzzy cloud. It's slotting into a specific parking spot that's been carved out by the 12-dimensional geometry.
Correct. It's a geometric exclusion principle. You can't fit a 33rd electron in that shell because there literally isn't a geometric mode for it to spin in.
It's like trying to hum a note that doesn't exist on the instrument.
That's a great way of putting it.
And what about the other shells? The 2, 8, 18?
They correspond to subsets of the geometry. Shell 1, with 2 electrons, is the simplest binary spin state, up or down. Shell 2, with 8, activates the basic 8 internal axes.
Okay.
Shell 4, with 32, is the full realization of the Aetheron resonance pattern. It's when you're using the whole instrument.
It makes the periodic table feel less like a list of ingredients and more like a map of the vacuum's internal structure.
That is the ultimate goal of SGQM, to show that matter is just geometry, trapped in a stable loop.
Speaking of loops and structure, let's talk about these spinors a bit more. The notes mention 8 internal axes labeled R1 through R8. They seem to have different jobs.
They do. The 32 spinors are essentially navigating these 8 axes, and the axes are split into 2 teams of 4.
2 teams.
R1 through R4 are the fermionic sector.
Fermions are the matter particles, right? Electrons, quarks, the stuff you can knock on, the solid stuff.
Yes. This sector governs mass, identity, and what the papers call inward phase.
Inward phase.
Think of it as what creates the stubbornness of matter, inertia, the resistance to being moved. It's the geometry winding inward on itself, becoming dense.
Okay, so R1, R4 makes things solid. What about the other team, R5 through R8?
That is the bosonic sector. Bosons are the force carriers. Photons, gluons. This sector governs curvature, force, and outward oscillation.
So one team pulls inward, creating mass, and the other team pushes outward, creating energy and force.
And the interplay between these two sectors is what creates the entire universe we see. It even explains the generations of matter.
The generations, right. We have the electron, but then we also have the muon and the tau, which are basically just heavy, unstable electrons.
The heavy cousins.
Yeah.
And standard physics really struggles to explain why there are 3 generations. Why not 2? Why not 10? It's a mystery.
So what does SGQM say?
It says they're just different winding states of the exact same geometry.
Different gears.
Different gears. Generation 1, our electron, is mass-dominated. The R1, R4 axes are doing most of the work. Generation 2 is energy-dominated. And Generation 3 is the full geometric magnitude. Everything is winding at max capacity, which is why it's so unstable.
It's like shifting gears on a bike. Same bike, same rider, but different tension, different speed.
Exactly. It's the same spinner, just navigating the internal axes with a higher intensity.
Okay, this is a lot. We've covered the 12 dimensions, the 66 generators, and the 32 spinors. But there's one number that keeps popping up in all the equations, and the source material treats it like the Holy Grail. 8 pi.
This is perhaps the most profound conceptual shift in the entire model.
Because usually when I see 8 pi in physics, like in Einstein's field equations, I just assume it's a conversion factor.
Just a number.
Yeah, like translating inches to centimeters.
Yeah.
You just need the number to make the units work out properly.
That is the standard view, a normalization constant. You just put it there so the answer makes sense.
Right.
But SGQM says, no, 8 pi is not just a number. It is a mechanical description of a cycle.
Cycle. What kind of cycle?
Think about a circle. One full rotation is 360 degrees. Or, in the language of physics, 2 pi radians.
Right. If I spin a coffee cup 360 degrees, it's back where it started. It looks the same.
But in the quantum world, things are weird. Fermions, those matter particles we talked about, have something called spin 12. And what this means is that if you rotate an electron 360 degrees, it doesn't actually get back to its original state. Mathematically speaking, it's upside down.
I've heard this analogy. This is the plate trick, right?
Yes. Let's try it, if you're listening. Hold your hand out flat, palm up. Imagine a plate is resting on it. Now, try to rotate your hand a full 360 degrees without dropping the plate.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm twisting my arm inward, under my armpit. Okay, I've done 360 degrees. My hand is back where it started, but my elbow is completely twisted. My arm is in a knot. I'm not back to normal.
Exactly. The object, the plate, is back. But the connection to the system, your arm, is twisted. To get your elbow untwisted, what do you have to do?
I have to keep going.
You have to keep rotating in the same direction for another 360 degrees.
Okay, twisting again. Coming all the way around, and now I'm back to neutral. My arm is straight again.
It took 720 degrees or 4 pi radians to fully reset the system.
Okay, so that's 4 pi. But the theory demands 8 pi. That's double. Where does the other 4 pi come from?
This is the genius of the Aetheron model. The first 4 pi, that 720 degrees, is for the fermionic phase. It resets the matter. It untwists your arm.
Right.
But remember, matter doesn't exist in a void. It exists in the Aetheron lattice. When the matter twists, it tensions the space around it.
Like twisting a blanket, you get wrinkles.
Yes. So once the matter resets itself, the manifold, the blanket, needs to untension. It needs a reciprocal rotation to rebalance the energy. That is the bosonic feedback phase.
And that takes another 720 degrees.
It requires its own 720-degree rotation.
So the particle spins twice to reset itself. That's 4 pi. And then the universe spins twice to forgive the particle. Another 4 pi.
And 4 pi plus 4 pi equals 8 pi. A full 1,440 degrees.
That is a massive cycle.
It is the heartbeat of the universe. This complete double cycle is required to maintain that Aetheron invariant, alpha.
Yeah.
If the cycle isn't completed, the geometry breaks. Mass and energy wouldn't balance.
And the source material links this directly to gravity.
It does. It says gravity is not a wave traveling through empty space. Gravity is the lattice reequilibrating. It's the lattice going through this 8 pi cycle to synchronize all its phases.
So when we feel gravity holding us to the Earth, we are feeling the Aetheron desperately trying to finish its 1440-degree turn.
In a sense, yes. And it explains why gravity acts as a rank 2 tensor. That's a fancy math term. But it essentially means gravity creates stress in multiple directions at once.
Which it has to.
It has to, because it's balancing 66 different generators across 12 dimensions to maintain the square of that invariant. It's a hugely complex balancing act.
This connects to something else in the notes that I have to say, it completely blew my mind. The non-propagation hypothesis.
This is the really controversial part of the theory.
Yeah, I mean, we're taught from childhood that light travels. It takes 8 minutes for sunlight to reach Earth. We see a lightning flash, then we hear the thunder. Propagation is everything.
Right.
But SGQM says forces don't travel. How is that possible?
It challenges the ontology of travel. It challenges what travel really means at a fundamental level.
Okay.
The analogy used in the texts is the net. Imagine a giant tensioned net stretched across a stadium.
Okay. Like a giant spider web.
Exactly. If you twist one corner of that net, what happens?
The whole thing moves.
The entire net adjusts its tension. The shape of the net changes, even at the other side, almost instantly.
Right, I can see the ripple move across.
But did a packet of tension travel from one side to the other? Did a physical object fly across the net? Or did the whole structure simply reconfigure itself?
I mean, mechanically, the strings just pulled on each other. It was a global reconfiguration.
SGQM says light and gravity are like that. The photon isn't a little bullet flying through empty space. It's a phase synchronization rippling through the 12D lattice.
So the speed of light, c, isn't a speed limit for a bullet.
No.
It's the processing speed of the computer.
It's the rate of phase synchronization. It's how fast the Aetheron can twist and untwist to pass that tension along the grid.
That actually makes sense of why the speed of light is constant for everyone. The grid can only update so fast, no matter how fast you're moving through it.
Exactly. And it resolves some of the weirdest paradoxes in quantum mechanics, like entanglement.
Spooky action at a distance?
Right. Two particles that interact instantly across the universe.
Which seems to violate the speed of light limit.
Unless they aren't sending a signal.
They're just part of the same net.
If they're just two knots on the same net, and that net has what the theory calls rotational memory, then their connection is geometric. It's not based on sending a little radio signal back and forth. They are part of the same structure. They don't need to call each other. They already know.
It completely resets your whole view of the universe. It's less like a game of catch and more like a giant vibrating crystal.
A giant vibrating crystal is actually a very close approximation to the Aetheron lattice concept.
I want to touch on the fine structure constant, alpha, again. We mentioned it's the hypotenuse in that triangle, but the notes imply it's dynamic.
Yes.
Standard physics says alpha is approximately 1137, period. It's a constant of nature.
Standard physics assumes the vacuum is static, so the constant should be static. But if the vacuum is a dynamic machine that can stretch and twist,
then the constant might not be so constant.
Exactly. SGQM predicts that alpha, the ratio of the triangle's sides of energy to mass, can actually wobble.
Where would we see that? How could we test it?
Near extreme curvature, near black holes, neutron stars. The synchronization ratio has to change because the space itself is so incredibly twisted.
So it's a testable prediction.
It is a testable prediction. If we look at light coming from around a black hole and the fine structure constant is slightly different than 1137, that would be a smoking gun for this theory.
That's wild. So the constants of nature might just be the current settings of our local patch of spacetime.
Correct. They're emergent properties of the geometry, not fundamental, baked-in numbers.
Okay, we have to talk about the periodic table again. Because the source material mentions something very specific about a limit. The limit of the periodic table.
Right. We currently have discovered elements up to number 118 oganism, but they are incredibly unstable. They exist for milliseconds in a lab.
They fall apart.
Instantly. SGQM predicts that there is a hard geometric limit to how many elements can exist.
And the number is 58.
Well, to be precise, the source says there are exactly 58 stable equilibrium points in the rotational lattice.
58. But wait, we have stable elements past 58. Gold is 79. Lead is 82. Those are pretty stable.
Stable equilibrium points in the context of the lattice geometry might mean something slightly different than doesn't decay radioactively. It suggests that beyond element 58, the geometry cannot perfectly synchronize the strong force, electromagnetism, and the underlying geometric axis.
They're out of sync.
They're out of sync. It implies that elements heavier than that are essentially fighting the geometry of the universe just to exist. They are forced states, not natural ones.
That explains why all the really heavy elements are so rare and difficult to make. The universe really just wants to stop at iron or nickel.
It's running out of rotational modes. The 66 generators can only combine in so many complex ways before the knot becomes too messy to hold together.
It's like trying to tie a knot with too much rope. Eventually, it just slips.
That's a perfect analogy.
Now, I saved the weirdest link for last.
I think I know where you're going.
The source material briefly touches on biology.
This is the wildest link, as the outline calls it, and it's pure speculation at this point, but it's fascinating.
Right. Physics usually stays far away from biology. Physics is about atoms. Biology is about cells. They don't mix. But SGQM draws a line between them.
It looks at the numbers again. It always comes back to the numbers.
Okay.
We have 66 generators in the Aetheron.
66.
How many codons are there in our DNA?
I remember this from biology class. 64.
64.
Which is very close to 66.
It's very close. And the theory suggests this isn't a coincidence. It posits that the 64 codons correspond to a highly stable symmetric subset of the 66 generators.
Whoa, wait, so our DNA is what? A map of the vacuum's rotational modes.
The phrase they use in the paper is, life is geometry becoming aware of itself.
Wow.
The idea is that biological structures, like the double helix of DNA, are so stable because they mirror the underlying rotational symmetry of the Aetheron. They are resonant with the background hum of the universe.
So life isn't just a chemical accident that happened on a wet rock.
It might be a geometric inevitability. If the vacuum has a specific, stable structure, then complex molecules that align with that structure would naturally be more stable and more likely to form.
It suggests that the blueprint for life is written into the 12-dimensional fabric of space itself.
That's the implication.
That is strangely comforting and also completely mind-bending.
It connects the very, very small, the spinor, to the very, very complex, the cell, through the universal language of geometry.
So, after all of this, what does this all mean for us? For you, the listener, driving to work or washing dishes right now, we've just unpacked a 12-dimensional universe, a spin cycle that controls gravity, and a vacuum that's actually a machine.
I think the biggest takeaway is a sense of connection. We often feel separated from the universe. We are people in the universe.
Little specks floating around.
But if SGQM is right, or even on the right track, we are of it. Our mass, our energy, the very atoms in our bodies, they are just persistent, synchronized rotations of the space right in front of your nose.
We are just knots in the Aetheron.
We're knots in the Aetheron. And gravity isn't a force pulling us down. It's the universe harmonizing its structure with ours.
That is a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
I will leave you with one final proposition that came to me while I was reading through all this.
Okay.
We talked about space being motion in this theory.
Yeah.
The vacuum is this active rotation.
Yes.
But we also treat time as one of the dimensions in this 12D structure.
The fourth dimension, yes.
So if space is just the motion of this Aetheron, what happens to time if the rotation stops? Or, maybe a better question, what happens if the rotation achieves perfect equilibrium? If the Aetheron invariant is perfectly balanced, does time stop?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? If time is just the measure of the system synchronizing itself through that 8-pi cycle, then a perfectly synchronized universe would be, by definition, timeless.
Something to think about. Next time you look at the empty air in front of you, just remember, it might be the most active, most complex thing in the room.
It almost certainly is.
Thanks for deep diving with us.
Always a pleasure.
See you next time.